So I'm Steven Sanders Myers, Brightwater Homes. We build net zero single family detached.
Thank you guys for being here in all seriousness. Thanks, Greg. I'm here to introduce him. So Greg Gerard with Shielded Healing. He is a, tell me again.
Functional nutritional therapist and EMF mitigation specialist.
I'll let him intro himself.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for being here, Greg.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. Usually this PowerPoint is geared more for holistic health practitioners and whatnot. So, but we changed it around some, but there's still a lot of heavy like biology and whatnot in there. But I know this is a really big topic, and there's a lot of BS out there, not the building science part, but the BS out there, y'all know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna go over some of that too, because this is a very out there woo-woo topic. I was skeptical on it at first, just like everybody else. So, but we've been testing homes since 2017. We've been doing new builds with people, talking with their contractors, working with them. This could be anywhere from electricians, of course, to plumbers. We see all kinds of, we should do a podcast on all the stories and tales from the road. Buildings, even holistic health clinics down into Mexico. They have a whole different wiring code that's very kind of crazy and wild, some of the grounding and whatnot they do. And then, of course, health-minded people, pro athletes, Olympians and whatnot. There's only 5 of us right now for the whole country, so we get spread pretty thin. My area is pretty much, I live in Dahlonega, Georgia. My area is from DC down to Miami, Florida. And so I'll be showing and trying to bring some of this to life because you can't see any of it. I'll be showing you with different meters how to bring some of this to life. We are trying to go by what is testable, retestable, verifiable measurements. And some of these equipment, like multimeters, some of y'all use and know very well. The Fluke 287 and 289 will have microamps, so we use one or the other multimeter for testing body voltage and body amperage. So that's volts AC. That's just the wiring in the walls. The body amperage, that typically is measuring the body for dirty electricity. So I'll talk about what dirty electricity is. And testing the body for RF, radio frequencies or high frequencies. So this is 3G, 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell towers mostly, AM, FM radio, whatnot. Some people that do this work, they may test the body for electric fields, and then residential wiring, you'll have more of a body voltage measurement because it's unshielded Romex wiring. But they don't test body amperage, which is kind of a big miss. And then they're testing the air for RF. So if you're testing the air for cell towers, you're getting some information at least. You're not testing the body. So sometimes, I'll show you examples of this. Sometimes you can hear a radio station come through my body or your body through the speaker. You can hear the Beatles, And remember when we were little, like you go up to the metal antenna on the TV? Like I remember in Cordele, Georgia at my grandma's house, to see Andy Griffith better, you put your hand on the metal antenna, and then now the picture comes in better. That's UHF and VHF flying through the air. Why did the picture get better? Because we're conductive, and the little metal antenna now has a human body touching it. So you're not getting shocked or anything, but we are conductive. So we test there's 6 different EMFs, but these are some that we're testing the body for. We test for light flicker. Spectrum of light, sure, and flicker a lot. A lot of lights, not just because of the AC current, but how the bulbs are designed, flicker at an incredible rate. You can catch a good bit of flicker on like the slow-mo video function of your iPhone, camera. But not all flicker is captured on that. The AC magnetic fields, using Gauss meters for that, that is mostly from overhead power lines, and it can be also buried power lines. So sometimes, I pull up to a house and there's some really big power lines outside, and that can be more of a deal breaker, so to speak. I wouldn't say someone needs to move because of cell towers. You can shield from 3G, 4G, 5G, newer technology. You can shield from that easier and more affordably than from magnetic fields from power lines. So magnetic fields are like this really low frequency. Higher frequencies, they're smaller, and like millimeter waves, they're smaller. They're easier to shield from. And we test dirty electricity too. I'll go into more elaborate aspects to this. I'm trying to do a quick overview. You've seen some of these things on the market. Some of you might have some of the stickers on your phone or laptop or whatever. And I feel like a party pooper when I'm at someone's house testing their home or their office, or doing, the husband's been on board with getting something excited about that I'm there, or the wife is excited that I'm there. The teenagers usually care less, but somebody's bought some of these things and they're not changing anything on the meters. So, adhered stickers, there's a bag of rocks. So that's what probably gives, me a harder job to do, because people have seen, electricians alone have seen so many gimmicky things on the market that claim to save people's power bill, right? But there is dirty electricity, one of the things we test for, and I'll show you, do a reading of that. And then there's a whole house filter by a company called Static. They're out of Montana. They're a great company. It's whole house surge protection, yada, yada. But the efficiency of the home is what they got into it for. And then people started to, emailing in, calling in, whatever, and saying, could this really be helping my sleep? Like, this is really strange. So now they have some more biology, physiology on their website. But you want to go by verifiable differences. Like, that makes the most sense to me. I feel like that would make the most sense to any human being. But if somebody has one of these things in their homes and they feel better and it's not making the meters worse, just keep on doing what you're doing. If you say it feels better, like, is it placebo? I don't know. Do they feel better for years or days? But we're just going by verifiable differences. So here's the main six that we test for. So I talked a little bit about that already. So, AMF and radio, cell towers and whatnot, neighbors' Wi-Fi, Bluetooth smart meters, 3G, 4G, and 5G. 5G is like a hot topic in the EMF space. And there's some people online, the hill they're dying on is 5G towers, and some people are moving to Green Bank, West Virginia. I don't know if y'all have heard of Green Bank, West Virginia, maybe. There's a big satellite out there, and you can't have Wi-Fi, or they have like one radio station, really low frequency radio station, and once you get further and further outside, people can start having Wi-Fi routers out there. But people are moving away from families because 5G. You don't need to do that. You can shield. Electric fields, I talked about that some. Wiring in the walls. So in this building, it'll be a lot lower because it should be mostly metal-clad conduit, right, by code. But I brought, for a demo, I'll be showing a demo with an extension cord, and that'll be like the Romex wiring around our bedrooms. But people get to see the outside readings of what this is like, and then the inside what the readings are. And sure, it can go, if you're in a really rural area, not great cell service, but you have a lot of devices in your home, then it might be higher in the home for RF than outside. But I let people know, hey, like, you don't need to go Amish or throw all your technology away. There's a way to live and work and do our thing, live our lives with this technology, but there's a higher priority area when we're sleeping, trying to heal and detox and repair every night. That's like, take the readings outside for that. You get a little bit of shielding, attenuation from your building materials. Not much though. I wish there was more. Stucco, you do get more than log cabin, brick homes, and wood siding and whatnot because of the metal mesh that's there. But then inside that stucco home, you still have electric fields. You still have the unshielded Romex wiring. Dirty electricity is the radio frequencies that we didn't used to have, but now we, over the years, have had a lot since the telegraph, and AMF and radio started hopping on the power lines and coming into our homes. So there's static. There's this static on the harmonics, and it's coming in on that 60 hertz. And even if it's buried to our homes, when I was learning all this, I was like, so that dissipates, right? And it's not. And so there's inefficiency. Like, our homes are designed to run on clean, a smooth wave. but there's a lot of static on the line, and you'll hear that with 2 of the meters I show. So there's a way to filter that with the whole house filter. That's a better solution. I have a plug-in to do like just a demonstration, but the best is to filter it before it even comes in throughout the home. Magnetic fields, typically from power lines. I usually make a joke when I'm doing home assessments, like you'll have a magnetic field at any motor, but I didn't show up here on horseback. So from Dahlonega, Georgia down to Atlanta, like, you know, you can't live in a bubble, but just sources of magnetic fields, wiring errors, which I know a lot of electricians don't like them to be called wiring errors because some things pass code. The breaker isn't tripping and whatnot. The outlet switch isn't even getting hot. But if you'll have a magnetic field at any outlet or switch or at a breaker panel, but if it's at an outlet or switch, it's ballooning out a magnetic field 6 to 8 feet, you know, onto a bed, then, you know, you can show that it's easier to see that that's too high of a magnetic field. You turn the breaker off, and sometimes it's a breaker for another room even, or the panel's labeled incorrectly or whatever, but you turn the breaker off and the magnetic field goes away. So then you've found the source of this like wiring error or, you know, this wiring issue. And so we talk with people as electricians about that. I let homeowners know, well, hey, leave this breaker off, you know, or at least at night, or leave this off until I talk with your electrician, and that way at least you're not sleeping in an elevated magnetic field. Sometimes not on PVC or PEX, of course, but sometimes on copper plumbing, we'll see some amperage copper plumbing, and it can be coming in from the city. So there's a house in Atlanta, a huge house I was testing, and the ground was bonded to the copper plumbing, and then they had another family had owned it before, and then a new family moved in, they added on to the house. They had a well dug in the backyard, a whole new PVC water system. They weren't even using the copper plumbing anymore, but the amperage was there. So you can so it was running a magnetic field rampant throughout the house wherever the copper plumbing was. That was very interesting because there wasn't power lines outside that were high, and you could kind of like narrow it down. And then so a dielectric union is typically the solution in the basement or out crawl space or out in the yard. You know, we talk with people's plumbers, cut about a foot or so section of the copper plumbing pipe out and put a PVC or PEX section in there. That drops that amperage. They would need, since their ground was bonded to the copper plumbing, they would need to reestablish a new ground though for the home, of course. So the electrician happened to be there when I was there, and he had wired the whole home, since they had renovated and all that. And so I talked him through that. So the magnetic fields, these are easier to filter or shield, and then change out lights. And then I can talk about geopathic stress here in a minute, but artificial lighting, yeah, our lights flickering a lot. Why would this be a stressor? You know, we would be running through the woods, you know, away from danger, but we're not. The lights, we're just at home trying to rest and digest. So a lot of the lights that are flickering, we don't have to be epileptic for that to be messing with circadian rhythms and things like that. So I'll do a light flicker test. I did one earlier, and these lights weren't flickering that bad. So maybe this TV is flickering some though. But geopathic stress, this is the only natural frequency we test for. And you're a structural engineer, right? I don't know if you've heard about these. We see some very, very interesting things. Mostly water veins and fault lines. They typically run together. Now, this isn't the San Andreas fault and the house is going to sink in, but there's a lot of water veins and fault lines, more than people realize. And then we'll see some cracking or settling and foundations at times. And it may have been, sure, the concrete guy screwed up, or it was January, or, you know, all different kinds of things. But the ground just settled more. There's a bunch of stumps buried in that spot. I don't know. So, and you can look for a well, you know, you can douse, you know, this is all with meters. This is probably, in my opinion, it's the coolest part of the assessment, but and can be the most out there. This is with going old school and using dowsing rods to find water veins, fault lines, and there's even other lines that people, dogs, and horses, for example, don't like to sleep on. There's Hartman and Curry lines, these intersections. There's a slide about that. Cats, bees, and ants love them though. So I'll map out the geopathic stress in a bedroom, and I'll don't tell me where your cat sleeps, and then I'll map out the geopathic stress on the bed, and then it's been right every time. This is showing, you know, like from a zookeeper standpoint, and I know there's some better zoos out there than others, you know, if we're, you know, what do we want our habitat to look like? Like more natural, you know, we're trying to help people with an ancestral sleeping space, you know, and whether, you know, creation or evolution, whatever somebody's worldview is, like, I don't think animals or people should, you know, live in harsh lighting, you know, bad food, chlorinated water, chemical heavy environment and whatnot. Some of the ringing in the ears, for example, is one of the most common things is tinnitus or ringing in the ears. And then some people, they get headaches and don't know why. Sleep, a lot of people have sleep disturbances, sleep issues. And then, I mean, blood sugar too. There's been aspects of like daytime and nighttime symptoms that pop up. We're seeing once people have shielded sleep, and I'll talk about that too, what that looks like. Once they have shielded sleep, so a lot of the people, we didn't realize this would happen that fast, but a lot of thyroid symptoms start getting way better, and people start having to adjust their thyroid meds, whether they're on, you know, a natural or like glandular thyroid support or synthetic hormones like thyroid support. So the adrenals, this is biology, nerdy physiology stuff, but the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys, and they're like the bouncer or bodyguard to the thyroid. So and where do you get the biggest, deepest recovery for your adrenals? That's in good, deep sleep. And it's like huge, game-changing. And so that's, you can see it's already helping the adrenals, so it's helping the thyroid. So yeah, we're wanting to help recreate natural habitats for people. And there's realtors, your clientele, some of you, something like you, like it's a booming, it's early still, but this is like a huge, it's a growing population of people that are trying to, you know, they're doing a ton of research and learning a lot. And there's a lot of misinformation about mold, about this, about that, about EMF online, just like with anything online. This talks about, you know, chemicals, mold, VOCs and whatnot, and how technology can be depleting, biophysical stressor. So this will talk about, so yeah, how did we get here kind of? So, you know, we have AC electricity, the invention of that. And then we had, you know, so DC, the direct current from the earth is just like analog, just flatlined. And then now we have alternating current. And now we have it in our homes, or we've had it in our homes for generations now. So for example, of course, batteries run on DC, but all living things run on DC. How do you restart a heart? There's electricity involved. The mitochondria is the battery of the cell, uses DC energy. Earth, sun, and moon set our DC circadian rhythm. It's funny, I didn't realize Keds went back that far, but we used to have leather shoes, or, you know, barefoot, then leather shoes, and then Keds, you know, came out with rubber shoes. Around that time, AC electricity was invented. So we're getting further and further detached from the DC, like the direct current from the earth. And I'm wearing shoes, you know, so I'm not barefoot and didn't show up on horseback and all this stuff. Suppose some say that Tesla sent the first wireless signal, but maybe it was Marconi, maybe Tesla, but 131 years ago, so like the invention of the telegraph. And this is talking about light, near infrared light. You know, the sun is a big ball of fire, and you would think it'd be flickering and whatnot, but it's beautiful, healing light. And then we're getting the introduction of different, like even double pane windows will cut down on the spectrum of light But we have, like, if I was to build a new house, I wouldn't do all single pane because then where your R value, your HVAC's all screwed up. Like that's, but maybe a sunroom with single pane windows, like that would be a good idea. So there's different aspects of artificial light or natural light, how it's been changing due to just even aspects of building materials. Light is a type of EMF. We can see and feel sunshine. Yeah, there's a debate about, is it ionizing? Does it heat up tissue? And if not, it was declared safe. Physicists asked whether a photon had enough energy to break a bond or heat tissue, and they knew ionizing radiation was bad because it could do both. But doctors are trained to name a disease and treat it, in Western medicine. And if I broke my femur, I would go to the hospital. I'm not going to try to heal it with kale and coconut oil. But both miss the middle, real biology effects that happen before and any diagnosis and without heating. Because our body voltage and body amperage is elevated at night while we're sleeping. So how can, if these electrical I just say emails, our brain is emailing all of our body throughout the night, hey, liver, there's an organ clock. Traditional Chinese medicine talks about it, acupuncture, and 1 to 3 a.m. is like liver time, and there's this really neat organ clock. So some people are waking up around 1, 2, or 3 a.m., and that's a sign from our liver. It might have something to do with tequila, but it doesn't have to. And springtime's known as liver time. But our bodies cannot, how can we heal if our body voltage, body amperage is raised? I'll show some demonstrations of that here in a little bit. Talks about blue light. A lot of people are, wearing blue light blocking glasses and seeing differences, whether they're watching TV at night or they're night shift ER nurses or whatever. So this is showing some natural EMF. Sun, the Earth's field, DC, the Schumann resonance, that's a healthy healing frequency from the Earth, fire, thunderstorms, but then man-made EMF. So you got the AC grid, cell phone towers and such, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. There's CFL lighting, there's a lot of light bulbs out there. Yeah, sure, it can be controlled from your phone, but then some of them are creating dirty electricity even. But then there's some really interesting aspects of dirty electricity that we'll see. Maybe an appliance could be causing an internal source of dirty electricity. My wife and I were talking about, should I leave this in? Or, Brian, my buddy that started the company, this is kind of neat, but some people are, I don't know. They took these oysters away from their environment and, to another totally different place on the earth, and they were in saltwater still and whatnot, but they weren't, so from Connecticut to Illinois, so not around the world or anything, but by the moon, they were still synced up to open up their shells, at high tide. They were still synced up, and then over time, they got synced up more to where they were at. Just showing how animals, plants, everything is responding and reacting to these different natural frequencies. And the sun has blue light. The sun has every color of the rainbow, but what's happening a lot of times is the blue light, we're watching TV at night, and so there's other ways to work around this, like having an infrared bulb, like having a bulb in between your eyes and the screen, and that can really take a spectrum, a wavelength or spectrum analyzer and look at the wavelengths of light, and you see this, you turn the red light on, and you see this huge red ball like this of infrared light, full spectrum. And that's like overriding the blue, because this is blue light, for example, especially at night, is depleting of melatonin. And you'll see there's even on 400 somewhere, maybe around the Northridge exit, there's a cell tower. It looks like a tree. There's some cactuses going on. So high frequencies, just talking some more about that. Yeah, don't want to test just the air. You want to test the body. So this is a meter testing RF or HF. So even if we were to turn all of our cell phones off in here, like right now I'm just testing the air. And so this isn't only what's in this room, it'll be outside of this room. Like most of what this is 3G, 4G, maybe some 5G too. But if you go to go to somewhere where it's kind of in the green. I got a radio station over here earlier. I'm gonna see if I can get it. It might just sound like a bunch of static right now. I think as more and more people have, the more and more cell phones are in, you can't hear the FM radio maybe. But I could hear, I don't know if Dylan heard it or somebody, but you can hear a radio station loud and clear. So if you test, there's some areas where I've been where there's no cell signal, and then I test the body and there's emergency dispatch, FM radio, other frequencies, other towers emitting some, outside external sources. But we can't live in a bubble. People don't need to shield their whole house. That's overkill when we're doing home builds, home renovations with people, whatnot. I feel like some of them in the back of their mind are going to say, so you think we should shield the whole house, right? I'm like, no, let's just shield your sleeping space. That's where the highest priority is, where we're trying to heal and detox. It's kind of interesting. And there's antennasearch.com. You can go on and look how many antennas are around you. What's cool is, that's 298 antennas. This was from 2019 though, in Olympia, Washington. You can shield from all that though. But it's kind of crazy. Look at the range of frequencies. 1,158 separate frequencies that will make this go up. Even without touching the body, it'll hit into the red. So electric fields, so I might get a couple of volunteers, maybe Chris, would you come up? And would you like to come up? So since we have metal-clad conduit in here, by code, the electric fields will be very, very low. So what I'll have you do is maybe you hold this.
Okay.
So this is testing just electric fields. This isn't cell towers or anything. So I'm basically recreating the Romex wiring around where we're sleeping. So look, not that we're holding on to the Romex wiring, but so this is just an example of showing like body voltage. When you're laying in your bed, you can see your body voltage reading from just the wiring in the walls. So that's one of the tests we do. You want this to be at 0.015 or lower.
That's
1.4. So it's like 1,400 millivolts. You want it to be at 15 millivolts or lower.
Is this coming to ground, your reference?
Yeah, in the gray, and I grounded out, good question. I grounded out the meter. So this isn't plugged into it's just the ground.
Yep.
When you have metal-clad conduit, like in an apartment, townhomes, whatever, office spaces, you're gonna have a lot lower reading, but then people are gonna start plugging lamps in and whatnot, which is normal, and there's workarounds for that, cell phones and all that jazz. And it starts, you're inviting that metal-clad conduit that's shielded, you're inviting the electric field out toward the body. There's another reading. Oh, so actually this would be cool to do. So if then you touch her arm or hand, or 7,000 millivolts.
Wow.
So like 3 separate antennas became one antenna. So then,
Because she's holding that probably, or because of our...
well, yeah, she could even let go of it. You can let go of it, and then we're getting some, it's kind of, I think because of the metal-clad conduit and we're on the slab, we're getting some grounding, so it actually is going down. That's a whole other thing too. Some of these grounding mats on the market, well, not some of them, I don't know if the grounding mat companies are misunderstanding, but the voltage for the electric fields, what we're testing right now, you're laying on a grounded surface, so it's gonna be really low, sometimes 0. But did that voltage really go away? No, it's going through you. We're like a conduit. We're a pathway. What does lightning want to do? The electric fields are going to go through your body to get to the grounding mat. So that's like, we don't recommend doing grounding mats until people have like a properly shielded sleeping space. I tested this earlier. So for body microamps, it's at 0, which is really cool. So this is testing dirty electricity. So if you touch touch her arm or hand or whatever. See, it's not going to fluctuate. Yeah, it does. Does a little bit. So test the circuits. I'll show you that here in a minute. But and then there's one more little fun demonstration. This is an easy. This is like a little kid's toy. I already showed Chris this. So this shows how conductive we are. So you complete the circuit, and so but this is really cool. Watch. So grab onto one end. So making sure. Well, you grab onto one end, making sure you're alive. I heard
grab on both ends. Yeah.
So then you grab onto her hand. So we could get 1,000 people. We could get everybody in this room, 1,000. I don't know how many people, 1,000,000, whatever. So I know this is like a kid's toy and all, but this is like a great little visual aid to help a lot of. This helps a lot of skeptics too. When you're laying in bed and you see your own body voltage, and you can see in real time. You put your arm back toward the headboard wall. There's voltage in the wall. We're not doing this. We're not sleeping like this. But our body voltage, seeing your own body voltage, body amperage for electric fields. It's like with home builds. Sometimes people might do metal-clad conduit in the rest and digest areas. And then maybe they do the shielded paint. They're shielding paint or organic cotton with silver threads in the organic cotton threads. That's a canopy system. Yep. And you don't have to get organic. Yeah, he said, sounds expensive. But a lot of the people we're helping, we're trying to look at everything. What tests the best? What are the products are on the market? What is this? How do these paints match up to each other? We found one paint in Germany. They said theirs was the best. And then and it was good, but we found another one that was even better and was more affordable and still zero VOC. We're trying to do everything through a holistic health practitioner lens versus hey, you're shielded, but then you have different toxins you've added into your environment. So one of the 6 that we test for is electric fields, raising the body voltage. One of the other ones is microamps, body amperage or body current. And I call those like buddy-buddy. They hang out together. The direct electricity dances on the electric wiring in the walls. So those two are buddy-buddy, and shield from that. So those body amperage, body voltage readings are at 0. Usually it's for body voltage, usually it goes down to 0, but at least 15 millivolts or lower. And then for microamps or body current, 0.00. That and shielding from RF. So cell towers, neighbors' Wi-Fi, our own stuff, our own internal sources, cell towers. It's basically like, one solution, shielded, painted room. There's curtains, similar fabric that the canopy system is made out of. You can do like daytime or nighttime mode. Nighttime mode is close the shielded curtains, and then close the doors typically, and then you have a Faraday. You have a Faraday cage. Like with our methodology, we've done homes where some people that do this work, and they're doing some good work. I don't want to bag on anybody, but I get there and they've painted or shielded 2 bedroom walls because the person a year or 5 before me said, the closest cell tower is right there. Like you can see it. Paint and shield these 2 walls or 3 walls, and you're good. And they're testing the air for RF. And then if that paint is grounded, that's when you're shielded from the electric fields of the wire in the walls. If you don't ground the shielding paint properly, if you don't ground it at all, but if you don't ground it properly, you're not shielded from the electric fields. You're really only tackling dumbing down the RF, the wireless frequencies. But I'm there and somebody spent money and time, them or a painter has shielded 2 or 3 walls. A new cell tower comes up over there, or a neighbor gets a lot of gadgets for Christmas, or our spouses or our kids, whatever. Yeah, it's a different material to shield AC magnetic fields, and it's a lot more expensive. But like if it's an acute area, say the service drop, breaker panel, like whatever's right on the other side of the headboard wall for the master bedroom, it's harder to move a bed for the feng shui and all this for a bedroom. In a kid's room, you're like, just put the kid's bed over there. 5-10 feet away and you're good. But there's a different material for that. That's not, the magnetic fields will go right through any pretty shielding fabric or shielding paint. It's a low frequency. That's like, and if it's from overhead power lines, that is like, I don't know. I don't think the people need to move right away, but I let them know to get a magnetic field meter. That's this is like a $2,800 meter. There's a $160 meter or so that's only 0.1 milligauss off from this more accurate, expensive meter. Take this, if you live near power lines, take this and track the magnetic field on your bed at night and in the morning. It doesn't have to be exactly at 9 o'clock at night, or just get an average of what the reading is going down to. Hopefully it goes down low enough at night when there's less power running through the power lines. I don't know, it's to really do it right, you'd want to like test and like, so we'd have to camp out with people for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. But I've seen some smaller residential lines that I didn't think were gonna be that high of magnetic field, and they were a higher magnetic field than I thought. And I thought it was far enough away. So I've seen some things that have like, I wish I could tell you, oh, you know, I mean, if they're big high voltage power lines and you're 300 yards away or so, that's usually better. That's like, you're gonna have a lot lower reading and whatnot, but track it with this is called the TF2 meter. It's very affordable. It has electric fields and RF, but you're just testing the air. So you're getting some information there. I wouldn't put much weight on it. But if it's like your HVAC unit, the outside unit, or air, wouldn't want an air handler in the crawl space under a bed. You could shield from that more acutely, but it's like, hey, if we're doing home builds with people, it's like, okay, where does the power come into the home? Try to have it out at the garage and not near a bed or rest and digest place. And maybe some of the outside HVAC units, like, have those, at least 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet away from where somebody might be sleeping. When the lines go underground, there's typically a lower magnetic field. So some of the magnetic field balloons out of overhead power lines, a lot of it is just the separation of those lines, and then you put them all together and they're buried. That's typically a lower magnetic field. But we have seen, I just did a house for Tori that is a holistic realtor, that she was going to be here tonight but couldn't. I tested a home that she had just sold, and there was no overhead power lines nearby, but it was buried power lines in the front yard. And somebody had come there before me and tested, but it was, there was a blatant transformer box open. And then I was like, I don't think this magnetic field from a buried power line is a deal breaker. This is fine, but you probably want to talk with the electric company, or I can too. Maybe it's a loose corroded connection, something or other. Sometimes maybe a critter gets in there, I don't know. But that was like, I was like, this is not a big deal. And they'd already closed on the house too. So I try to not use fear or get anybody stressed out about their home. I want people to feel good about where they're at and, understand they don't need to move away because of this and that technology. Yeah. So that was talking about, it's supposed to be clean, smooth, 60 hertz. And you've got this, I figured this isn't a clinical term, but we've got a Tasmanian devil coming in on the 60 hertz. So this is just testing this circuit. We use 2 different meters to test dirty electricity. So if you just use 1 meter, you could be at one house, and then this meter is higher, and this meter is lower, and then you go down 10 houses another direction, and the other meter's higher. So you're seeing more of the spectrum, more of the full spectrum of dirty electricity. And it's good too, it helps that you can actually hear dirty electricity, the static on the line. So this is a miniature version of the whole house filter. The whole house filter filters this throughout the whole house, but if I plug this in, we'll hear like a good bit of reduction. The whole house filter does a better job of it. So you can hear the audible aspect of that goes way down. There's gimmicky things like this on the market that a lot of electricians see at trade shows and whatnot. So, but just to demonstrate this, what the whole house filter does from static, and when I've done this, even without the meter, with speaker, like with audible, some people that are very sensitive to this, some people will go, I just felt that. And, if it's audible, that changes. Well, it's like, well, you might have felt that because all that static just went. Testing the body for this is one of the measurements we did, which was actually pretty low. A lot of that's because there's metal-clad conduit. So, but testing the circuit, this is peeking inside of that metal-clad conduit of okay, sweet. So there's very interesting aspects. Sometimes we'll see a pool pump is like, 50-50. A pool pump could be causing a lot of direct electricity, like an internal source. Sometimes it's an appliance, but it's a very interesting thing that we're seeing, and it would be great to talk with any of the solar people in here. Anyone who has solar on or off grid, it like pegs out both of these meters. The inverters are doing something incredible, right? They're turning sunshine into electricity, but there is a lot of internal direct electricity running throughout the whole house, and then you can filter it. This company, Static, they have a super duty. I call it the solar duty, but they have a super duty power perfect box. The typical home needs the heavy duty, the HD power perfect box. But that is like, I don't know. I need to it would be neat to figure out why the solar industry isn't talking about filtering the direct electricity. I want to know. I want to help because we'll see 30% improvement in efficiency of a solar system on a home. I mean, by filtering the direct electricity. So it's mostly internal sources. Might be a pool pump or another appliance, but then it's like across the board. Even with there's a healthy way to do solar though. Like some people in the EMF space, I'm never doing that, or I'm never doing this or that. And there's a healthy way. We've figured out healthy ways to filter this and just, try not to put the battery banks and the inverters and this and that on the other side of your headboard. The microinverters will typically be lower direct electricity, but we'll still see it's elevated a pretty good bit. That is lower though, the microinverters. But you just filter it with the super duty. I just call it the solar duty, but you filter. It has phase correction, harmonic rectifiers, power factor, and it's whole house surge protection too. It'd be best if a licensed electrician install it. If it gets popped by lightning, they send you out a new one for free. They're a great company, Static. It has, if you were to move, you can take it with you. It's great. It's weatherproof because some people have a bus on the outside main, and it takes two 15 amp breakers. And so, if people have that, I'm like, hey, and you have room, have this installed here. And a lot of times with I just say electrician lingo, your electrician might geek out over this thing, but they might be like, this is just a surge protector, But I let them know it hooks up just like a surge protector, so you can, I'm trying to help bridge the gap between the homeowner and the electrician or the contractors or the solar guys or any of this stuff. Yeah. But yeah, good question. We do see from the microinverters still. Copper plumbing, I was talking about, if you get higher amperage, if there is an exposed wall around the panel and you've got some magnetic field issues going on in the bedroom, you can amp clamp the Romex wiring or any of the wiring, and then you can take a thermographer too though and see which ones are going to be a little bit hotter. But yeah, so buried power lines, magnetic fields from buried power lines, if those are kind of high, there is a way to fix those through the power company. That's easier than high voltage power lines. That's just, Even these people that live near power lines, if they shield their sleeping space, they feel better. Lots of symptoms get better. Just me as like a practitioner, so I've been had my practice in Dawsonville for 12 years now, and I just call it the stress bucket. If we lower our stress bucket, food, mold, water quality, air quality, all these things, our vessel gives us a feedback, and usually women are better at like getting those signals. Like y'all have the ability to make people, and I don't know, y'all have, us guys are kind of detached, and but I mean, but I hear from even people who say, man or woman, I sleep great, everything's fine, just help my spouse or help my kid or whatever. We hear from them that they sleep better. They feel better. They're tracking it on an Oura ring or some device. It's kind of cool. You can turn the Oura ring, put it in airplane mode, and it still collects data up to like 2 days or 3 days. So sometimes it's us guys, I don't know if it's helping. I don't know if it's working. And then they look at the data of their Oura ring stats, their deep sleep, their HRV. And then that's the aha moment for some of us guys. I feel this stuff more than I realize, and maybe that's why I got geopathic stress. This is one of my favorite parts of the assessment. Like for new home builds, we just test the water veins fault lines, because it's like, hey, you have a really small lot, can't really move this way. Maybe all the bedrooms are near this water vein fault line. So maybe flip-flop the floor plan. I don't know. Just brainstorm with the homeowner about that. If it's an acre or 30 acres, whatever, there's like, hey, there's these 2 or 3 ideal home sites we're thinking about. And if there's a strong or wide water vein fault line coming through about where they want the footprint of their home, like I just, so I did Dylan's home assessment years ago. Has it been 2 years now? Maybe more. We have 3 kids, so I don't know, half the day or the week is what half the time. But so Dylan here, for example, has had shielded sleep. So for years now, I guess. So he was with a mold remediation HVAC company and is, now a builder, and he was there when I was doing the dowsing for water veins and fault lines of some friends of mine that I encouraged them to hire Dylan as their builder. And they're moving from coming up to Dahlonega. So you do geopathic stress testing for water veins fault lines, and it's like, hey, how do you feel about what about sliding the house 10 feet this way? Sometimes it's 20 feet. But you can get some cracking or settling at like foundational walls, on the slab, basements, whatever. And then, you got, sometimes it radiates up. So it could be that like roof line settling, then you get leaks, or your aspects of your R value and your efficiency of the home, heating and cooling, all of that are not as great. Mold, like rain and humidity and this and that getting in. This is a study he did this geopathic stress mapping experiment. This is 1929. A lot of neat things happened around the time of the Great Depression. I mean, it was going on in different countries, but people are getting very introspective. I think so there's Hartman and Curry lines. They're on they're a grid. Animals use them to migrate. So if it's an existing home, we map out the beds. So dogs, horses, they don't like to sleep on these intersections. But these different Hartman lines and Curry lines are just named after the people who discovered them. Cats love them. Honeybees will produce more honey on them. It took a while for my dad, who's a beekeeper, to get him to listen to me, because his beekeeping buddies have been doing it way longer than I'm not a beekeeper. He's more of a beekeeper than me. So, but in some countries, they call these cancer crossings. And sure enough, in this study, it correlated, like that there was cancer where the crossings were. So we mapped that out too with dowsing rods. You can map out where it's like a party trick almost. You can map out, and like sometimes if I didn't see a cat and there's no cat hair on the comforter, but I'm like, this is where your cat would sleep. And they were like, holy cow, that's where Fluffy used to sleep, but she died 5 years ago. There's debate about that. The intersections are about 10 to, for the Hartman lines, there's about 10 to 12 feet apart. But so here's a bed. So the green Hartman lines, they're about every 10 to 12 feet apart. There's debate about that, hence why it's a grid pattern. So monarch butterflies use these to migrate. Birds, people, I think we could feel these as we're moving across the earth, and some people are more sensitive to these than others. This could be, not all, like correlation is causation, but jet lag, road rage. we're flying through these geopathic stress lines, and we've got other stresses in our life. Maybe we're sleeping on two intersections also, and it's agitating to the body. So it can be agitating. Like if somebody's sleeping on this, they might roll this way too. We'll see if it's a twin bed. So many kids, this is why the mom or dad goes, this is why, Timmy flips this way. Like, maybe it's not every night, but turns. So dogs and like kids, like kind of tell a story of what they're doing, how they're sleeping. Or you see some kids will rearrange their bed just because this is fun, And then some, I think, are doing it. Our innate intelligence, creation or evolution, what somebody believes in, I think we can feel this stuff. It's a stimulative energy, at a cellular level. So we might move out of these in our sleep. But it's kind of amazing from a new build or renovation add-on to a home of like finding a more ideal spot. In my opinion, the man-made frequencies are more stressful to sleep, and they're newer. Man-made, non-native. There's good frequencies from the earth, but these to sleep on every night, stimulating and not restful. Here's some sources. Dr. Mercola, he has one of the newer books out, EMF'd. He wrote about the work we're doing in his book. And there's another one called The Invisible Rainbow. I know sources are a way to verify from the BS. There's the Bioinitiative report. There's more studies. Even the World Health Organization talks about how wireless frequencies are group 2B carcinogen. You can find this information there. It's like buried pretty deep and whatnot, because it's kind of detrimental to a lot of big industries too, right? So I have a cell phone. I have a pouch, like an EMF pouch. It's a little more annoying than the cases, but it's better readings. Yeah, so remove the stressors, nourish the body. So here, what do I do now? When I'm doing an assessment, or like for y'all, like you can, if you have a multimeter, you can take a multimeter, ground it out, and but even if you don't, you can at least turn the breaker off for your bedroom. And with us guys, typically we want to feel 50 more horsepower the next day, right? Like we do something to our truck or car I remember that in high school and college. But it can take time. It can take time. Usually the kids or the woman of the house will feel this before us guys do. And maybe even then, it can take time. But turning the breaker off, now I know that breakers aren't meant to be treated like light switches. Sometimes people, like I was doing this a long time ago to figure out, well, am I going to feel something, It was 4 breakers I was having to turn off because our guest bedroom, now our kids' room, I live in a log cabin, and then master bedroom breaker, master bath, guest bedroom, guest bath. So 4 breakers turning off every night brought the body voltage down really low. It did not bring it down to 15 millivolts or lower, but it reduced the stress bucket. And maybe I felt a little bit, but it wasn't until we did a canopy system. That was when it was like, I woke up that first morning, I was like, holy cow, this is going to be good. And Dylan reached out to me. He's like, this is one of the top 3 things I've done for my health. Well, it was mold, EMF, and then food maybe, or I don't know. Some people, it's like, it might take a person like me asking 20 questions, like, are you dreaming more? Nobody's seeking out, Greg, I really want to dream again. But hey, are you dreaming more? Has caffeine intake gone down? sometimes daytime symptoms are getting better because sleep is getting better, and we might still be getting up to pee at night, liver time or lung time. Or you can unplug some things near your bed. That will lower things if you don't want to turn the breaker off. There's digital opt-out meter. Sometimes they'll charge people, the $10 a month. Sometimes I've heard 40 at some parts of the country. I wouldn't say you'd feel this as much as maybe turning off some breakers that are like around the bedroom. And again, it could be a breaker for the bedroom under, or a room under you, because you've got electric fields of the light fixture under the bed. Turn off your tablets and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth at night, all those things. Yeah, there is power over Ethernet. Some people do shielded Ethernet cables. You can turn off the Wi-Fi on any back of any router with the website and password, and then you have internet via shielded Ethernet cables. With a microwave, we'll do when it's not even on but plugged in, there'll be a little bit of electric field there, but you're not sleeping near there. But the way a control panel is wired, there can be a magnetic field there. Yeah, but some balloon out more than others is what I meant to say. So some will balloon out more than others. It just depends on how the person wired the panel. That's a lot of, an outlet or switch or an appliance. If they spread the wires further and further apart so they have more room to wire the panel, that magnetic field can get bigger just because of that. But when you turn the microwave on, it will detect an RF frequency, like a high RF or HF frequency, out into the yard. It's kind of crazy while the microwave's on and doing its thing. So it would be better to do a stove and an induction stove. That's like way, way lower, and you're not having the RF blast like of a microwave. Shielding paint wise, it's 0 VOC. And this is before a room is, there's a 0 VOC primer, and that gets painted over that, and then the room goes back to whatever color they want. There's shielded curtains. People can do different configurations of their shielded curtains. And if you're wanting to take a cell phone call in your bedroom, just open the curtains and open the doors. It has like areas where you can still have cell phone call and whatnot. This is one style of canopy system. The wooden frame is heavier and more tools to do. Sometimes we're helping people, they're like elderly, really sick, low energy, or just they don't care, and there's like a furniture grade, like a lightweight furniture grade PVC, and they just use a rubber mallet and don't have to do any tools. So there's a shielded mat that goes under this, and then the shielded canopy system. So this is an example of the fabric canopy, or you can see it's very light and air permeable. So this fabric doesn't look like, it's not tin foil, right? It's way prettier. There's a lot of people are like, oh, that's not that bad. I thought there's a lot of fabrics on the market that are copper colored, or they're not as light and air permeable. And a lot of them have silver or copper, or some type of metal adhered or sprayed on, and then it flakes off over time. And then that's becoming an inhalant, not healthy. And then it's not shielding as well, because the shielding material is falling on the floor. This is a small sample of the mat. Typically people put a rug over it, but the canopy is conductive, the mat's conductive, and there's a snap where this snaps together, so you don't have to have this you don't have to have contact all the way around for your Faraday. And you just close these at night, and there's no snaps or zippers that are annoying. But then you have a Faraday. And then all those readings, like this meter is incredibly quiet. There's, it can go from 10,000 down to 0. It's like incredibly quiet. So you don't have to move. New York City, 20th floor, you can shield from that. So buzzing, ringing in the ears, thyroid, night sweats. I forgot to mention night sweats. Yeah, heart racing, arrhythmia, palpitations. People's sleep aids, natural. It could be a margarita. It could be, all kinds of different sleep aids. We're all hunting and gathering. It's just from a pantry, fridge, or grocery store, I like to say. Healing Herxheimer reactions can occur, which is good. So like there's a family, the two sons, they were already potty trained. They're pretty young, but already potty trained, like a year or so potty trained. The mom was like, we're sleeping so much better, yada, yada. But Greg, why are the kids, like they started wetting the bed? And she's like, I can't go through potty training again. I'm like, no, it'll be okay. They're detoxing. They're so sleeping so heavily, and their body is going through all these different, the processes of the body. That's why our urine is supposed to be a little bit yellow in the morning. And hopefully it goes clear, and hopefully it's clear the rest of the day. But their bodies were detoxing. So I was like, it should stop within a day or 3, and it did. That was the first time I heard that, but the biology, like physiology, neurology, health practitioner in me knew that everything else is great, okay, it's okay. Let's see what they notice. And then it was not an issue. Headaches, better sleep, metabolism, blood sugar. So some people see weight loss. So there is hope. Brian. The wiring errors can be very interesting. We're probably running out of time here. We go through with home builds. We talk to not only the homeowner, but we talk to the contractors, electricians, and whatnot. So if somebody has a shielded bedroom, hey, why, you don't need to spend the money for metal-clad conduit around the sleeping spaces, but maybe you want it in the rest and digest areas. If it's an existing home, you could do the shielding paint like 4 or 5 foot up the wall in the living room, and then ground that paint, and then you're shielded from the electric fields, but you can still use your cell phone just fine. And RF wireless frequencies can get in and out. So there's different ways to do it. And yeah, like where's the proper location of where the power is coming into the home, outside and inside HVAC units and whatnot. If there's solar in the equation or whatnot. Dr. Mercola is who wrote the EMF book. He's down in Florida. Rick Rubin, some of y'all may or may not know. He helped Johnny Cash resurrect his career. But Brian's done his assessment in California in his studio. And the dirty electricity, that's the upper echelon of the music industry. And but that house and studio burned down in the Palisades fire. So Brian did his house in Hawaii and studio. And Brian Hoyer's recently on Rick Rubin's podcast. But we've done Dr. Mercola, Dr. Klinghardt, Dr. Ben Lynch. There's some of these sources in here and on the website. Brian and his family, now they have 5 kids. But they had 3 here. They built a shielded tiny house and went around America with it. Thank y'all for bearing with me. I'm not a public speaker.